Business ownership has never been hotter, but how do you do it? That's where I come in. Allow me to guide you on your journey. Welcome to Ion Franchise. This episode sponsored by SEO Samba. Empower your franchise with predictable results and AI-driven marketing. Up next.
As a huge success is because the model is highly flexible. We turn brown to green. That's what we do. We turn brown to green. She always says there is a significant difference between buying yourself a job and buying yourself a business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising, and I'm your host, Lance Graulich. So there's a lot of dirty, unsexy businesses. We've talked about it, but most people today just want to go where the money is and go with either what they know or what they think they're good at. Well, let me tell you, when poop happens, duty calls.
Duty calls.
And here are the guys from Duty Calls. Josh Minturn is the Vice President of Franchise Development, and we have the President of Duty Calls, Larry Amos. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, guys, let's start off with a hard-hitting question. Everybody listening that is interested in business ownership and has never done it before is thinking, how do I know with all of these thousands of franchises, what is the best way to find my franchise? How do you even know where to start and how to do it? So guys, field that one. Josh, you're first on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always tell people to, before they decide on which business is right, take some inventory, right? So really work on your own personal why and understand what that is before you dive into the multitude of opportunities. There are so many out there, it'll make your head spin. I like some advice that a popular character on TV talks about. It's Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. He says, never follow your passion, but take your passion with you, right? And the reason for that is, a lot of people say, I love flying kites, let's say. And so they start a kite business. And guess what? At some point, they stop loving that and they never do that again. They may be a golf pro and they love golf. And so they become the pro at the course and then they never play again. So there's the why behind what you do is going to drive you. Your passion, you should bring it with you, but you shouldn't necessarily follow that into the business of your choice. And so that's where I would start. Start with your own why, and then you'll start the discovery process with somebody great like you, Lance. You can go through and find all kinds of great answers.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And by the way, I love Mike Rowe, love hearing what he has to say. And years ago, it was all about passion. People would always say, follow your passion. And I love Mike Rowe's updated appropriate comment. How about you, Larry? What say you?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that because I'll quote Oprah, and I will say, she always says, figure out what you're passionate about and then figure out a way to make money doing it, right? Which I love that.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, I think one of the very first questions that we will ask candidates when we're doing our Meet the Team Day or through that discovery process, we often will start with, give us your definition of success. Let's talk a little bit about your definition of success, right? Because then it's our responsibility as your leadership team and your family to help you get there. And so we kind of start on that level, and then I also say, in full transparency, sometimes your definition of success is not the right fit for this particular brand or this, or maybe even franchising, right?
Yes.
I always say, we always joke internally, I always say, all right, if you tell me your definition of success is you need a yacht by this Friday, you might call Josh back and let him move you to another brand, right? Because that's a lot of poop. So in all fairness though, but I would say I totally agree with what what Josh said.
So can I get a dinghy by the end of year one, if not a yacht?
I would say yes, definitely a dinghy. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds fantastic. So guys, let's jump right into your backgrounds. How did you both get into franchising in the first place and your current role? So Larry, you go first on that. You're the boss.
Yeah, sure. You know, like a lot of franchisees and franchisors, it was very accidental, quite frankly. I just kind of fell into it. In 2016, I found myself again, like a lot of franchisees at a crossroads. I was in corporate America, doing the corporate gig. It was fine. I was on the road every single day. And it really, in my soul, I started thinking, I have no purpose, you know, kind of back to that passion piece, right? I literally was just an executor going around with a binder saying, okay, Lance, is this done? Josh, did you do what Bob said to do? All right, Lance and Josh, and we're all robots. And that's what I did. And I just kind of lost my purpose in getting up every single day. Like, why am I getting up? What am I doing? Got a random call from a recruiter, and founders at DoodyCalls was looking for someone to come in and just reorganize, restructure, build out processes. They were kind of at that point where they were scaling. And I'll be very honest with you, at the time, I thought, do they know who they're talking to? What? Poop? What? You want me to do what? I could not even get my head around it, but I was so intrigued. I was so intrigued that I said, yeah, let's do this. And then, you know, the rest was kind of history, right? Once I met them, and I think that is one of the differentiators, quite honestly, at DoodyCalls, is the culture and the core values. And I know all organizations talk about that, but for us, there's definitely a different ingredient. I wish I could get it in a bottle because we'd have a whole nother show, But,
well, if you could get it in a bottle, then any company can do it. So that's why it's so special. It's this fairy dust, if you will, that you know, emanates a brand, if you will. So I love it.
Right. Yeah.
Good.
And that's where it all started. So yeah.
Awesome. Josh, how about you?
Well, thanks for having me go second, Lance. It's hard to follow that kind of story. My goodness.
No, my pleasure.
I'll sprinkle the dust. I'm sprinkling dust your way. I'm throwing dust.
Thank you. So, you know, my story, actually, I was very entrepreneurial as a kid. 19 years old, I had a lawn service, and I started, you know, I'm in Nebraska. That's where I live. So lawn services, you kind of put your business on pause in the winter months unless you push snow, which in Nebraska, sometimes we get a lot, sometimes we don't get a lot. And so I happened to work for a company that sold Christmas lighting. I would sell it, install it, take it down, the whole 9 yards, and then my season would kick back up. So I did that all through college. When I graduated college, I did what you know, kids from a blue collar family do. I went and got that corporate job Larry was talking about, and I worked in radio for about a year. I did really well. I found out that I could sell stuff, and so you know, around the time of my 1 year anniversary, the owner of that Christmas lighting company gave me a call and said, "Hey, we've got this role where, you know, we're looking to bring on," at the time we called them distributors. They were really franchisees. And I said, "Yeah, I'll give that a shot." And so what I didn't know is that 20 years later, I'd still be doing that. But I, like Larry, I found some passion in, you know, in an industry that, you know, has been very, very good to me. In my career, I've helped over 400 people get into business for themselves. Now with Authority Brands, it's kind of unfair. You know, I've got a whole bunch of people that are helping a lot of entrepreneurs become business owners. And so that number is probably closer to 600 at this point, but they're not all mine. But I do take pride in the roughly 400 people that I helped get into business for themselves in those years leading up to my time at Authority Brands, because it's so rewarding to see people who probably would have never followed that itch. They would have never scratched it if they didn't have an idea. And franchising was that idea, and I could help them bring it to life, right? So it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I always tell people franchising exists because not everybody has a great original idea that needs to be born. You know,
Totally.
if you ever watch an episode of Shark Tank, there needs to be a reason for your solution. And obviously, let's roll right into that. What is DoodyCalls? Sum it up for me, for the audience, exactly what DoodyCalls is all about.
Yeah, it's a home service, obviously, that is pet waste management, right? So I think the elevator pitch would be, we provide a service so you don't have to. I mean, that's really, you know, our tagline. And we provide service to homeowners, renters, or a commercial property. So we have a lot of B2B clients as well. And I think the most common misunderstanding about what we do is A, that it's dirty, and it's actually not. And B, that it's only for the affluent clients when it's actually not. So we have a lot of disabled folks, retired folks, busy mom, busy dad, grandparents, folks that maybe couldn't have their fur baby because they can't take care of it or they can't go out and take care of it. We take care of it for you. So you take care of going to work, take care of the kids, get better, whatever you need to do. And we take care of the management process of picking up the waste.
Love it. Fabulous.
Yeah.
So who is your ideal franchisee that you're looking for? Who do you hope you're on the other end of a phone call or a Zoom call with as a prospect?
Yeah. So we appeal to a wide variety of candidates. And I'm sure Larry has an opinion on who makes the best franchisee once they're in. But certainly when we talk to people, there's a lot of reasons, again, why people would get into the business in the first place, right? So we start with their why, but we're also looking to try to match goals, right? So the goals of individuals don't discriminate, right? The folks that we bring into the brand, they come in all shapes and sizes, and we love it. They come from all walks of life, and we love it. But the goals have to align with what can be accomplished with this brand. And the interesting thing is, we talk to people that look at this and they just want a side hustle, right? They want to do something, adjacent to their existing employment. They want to keep their job, and those people are great, right? So there's a path for them in this business. We also talk to people, believe it or not, that really want to scale and build an empire. And once they get over what we do, right? Because again, Larry kind of alluded to this, the perception is that this is dirty, it's gross, and it doesn't have to be. But once they get over that hump and they start looking at the fundamentals of the business, we're recurring revenue, right? We have a customer base that's pretty loyal to us. They don't go away because let's face it, nobody likes to pick up poops, right? So once they buy our service, they're not going away. If we can create alignment on some of those concepts and help people get over the hump, we often appeal to that empire builder, the person that wants to build a massive enterprise of a business. And so we have that path as well. Again, that doesn't really discriminate. We talk to people who are former military members. We talk to corporate America, the whole nine yards and everything in between. Nurses, we've had the whole gambit with this particular brand. It's kind of fascinating to me.
Yeah. No, I love that. And as far as the most successful franchisees in your brand today, if you were going to think of the top 10 high performers in your organization, where did they come from?
All walks of life. I mean, quite honestly, we've got active military, police officers, stay-at-home moms, consultants, engineer, firefighter. I'm trying to think of all of them. I don't want to forget any of them, but I mean, honest to goodness, across the board. I mean, honestly, it really is. And I think the other thing it's always we often say internally that it's a fun brand, but it's also kind of a family oriented kind of brand that you can have fun with, right? So what Josh was just saying, when you think about multi-generational wealth, or you're building out some sort of portfolio, maybe this is your side hustle, you're throwing it into your portfolio. We have so many owners that share, the business with the kids. I mean, at the age of 5, they're going to a flea market or a farmer's market or a parade, because who doesn't want to pick up poop? I have to give you a plug. Who doesn't want to, throw poops out at a parade? We're not auditors. We're not coming to take care of the, flooded basement. You don't dread when you see our trucks. You go, oh, that's Duty Calls. You start laughing. So it's just a fun, family-oriented brand as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. My son started working for me in restaurant franchises in the kitchen when he was 10. When he was 10.
Wow.
And now he's actually a big boss with Shake Shack. And he started when he was 17. And Shake Shack said to him, "Why we can't hire you? You're not 18. We hire 18-year-olds." He said, "I have experience." And they're like, You have experience. How do you have
A
experience?
lot.
Yeah. So my dad made me work. Now, so let's talk about this though. You mentioned a couple of times, guys, about side hustle. There's a lot of talk on the internet about you can't own a business as a side hustle. You have to focus and be a full-time owner, all of that. So talk about how Duty Calls is different and you can work this on the side in the beginning.
Yeah, and I can jump in, Josh, and then and obviously add on. But I think in terms of day-to-day operation and running the business, I do agree with that. I do think we have to be fully aligned, and your heart and soul full time need to be in the business. So that's part of it. I get. From a side hustle perspective, what I often see as a huge success is because the model is highly flexible. It's not a 911 cause, right? So again, using the basement as a flood, or the air
Right.
conditioner goes out, you want us there then, right then and there.
Poop,
In our
poop
business,
is everywhere. I need you to
yeah,
come now.
yes. And what our clients will tell us, they'll say, we don't care when you come, we don't care what day you come, just please come and pick up the yard, right? So through our technology, we have a proprietary technology platform for all the franchisees to use. And through technology, I mean, they can literally operate their business 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week. We don't do appointments. So, we often tell clients in a playful way, as long as we get there before it's dark, we'll get there, right? Because you can't see poop after dark. Well, that's our joke. See, I missed my calling. I should have done marketing or something. I don't know. Marketing's actually going to kill me when they watch this. They're going to be like, Larry, no. But seriously, so that opens up a ton of flexibility. So some of those examples I was using earlier about some of the profiles of our franchisees, many of those folks, whether they are military, police officer, teacher, they just weave through our technology platform. They weave, the schedules in, and zip by on their way home from work or on their way to the office. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways you can do it and stay very flexible. We also have a call center, and I think the call center is a big help. That's open 7 days a week, taking all the calls, tracking all the leads for our franchisees. So you never have to worry if you are at work and this is the side hustle. You don't have to, lose sleep that you've lost a client. We're taking care of that for you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Josh?
Yeah, I get really practical with this answer. In all my years doing this, I've been connected to the service industry. And so I have this adage, your first day is your worst day in the service industry. And the reason why is because you typically start with 0 customers. And so if you think about how much time it takes to provide service to a customer you don't have, it's 0, right? There is no time. And so a lot of the work is being done by some of the force multipliers. And I think that's one of the major benefits of Duty Calls. We have a marketing team that does a lot of the marketing for our franchisees. We have a call center, as Larry alluded to, that picks up the phone on behalf of the franchisees. So really, franchisees in the early days in particular are responsible for execution, right? They just have to go get it done. And to Larry's point, it could be a night, it could be a weekend, just not too late at night. We're coming out with the glow in the dark poop additive, and once that happens, then we get 24/7, right? But up until that point,
So I'm going to take
we
over
are
marketing, and Josh will take over product. We have this whole
product
thing
development.
worked out.
We got it figured out. Yeah.
Well, is there there should be a G poop S or GPS, I mean, to track the poop
That's right.
also.
That's right.
So where, like sonar, you know how to pick it up.
We know
Yeah.
exactly where it's at in the yard. That's right. So, again, as the franchisee matures and grows their business, it is logical that they would need to invest more and more time into the business. And that's the nature of things. But again, I think there's when you jump into a business as an entrepreneur, you're taking a risk, right? Every business comes with risk. What we're trying to do is minimize the amount of risk that one might take, right? We're bridging that gap and making it a much smaller leap of faith than if you just, cold turkey quit your job and said, I'm all in, right? To Larry's point, heart and mind, you got to be there, right? If you're in, we're not trying this, we don't try. I think our team at Duty Calls and all the brands here, we invest heavily into our franchisees. We want them to succeed. And so we need them to be all in, mentally, right, from day one. But in
Yeah.
terms of the time allocation, we can get there, right? We can work into full time.
Yeah,
I love that.
totally,
Yeah.
totally agree.
Franchising is kind of like baking. Everybody gets the same ingredients. So if you're making a chocolate chip cookie, everybody gets the same ingredients.
Yeah.
But some people burn the cookie. Some people undercook the cookie. Some people
That's
don't
right.
follow the recipe appropriately.
That's
So
right.
obviously Duty Calls wants people that'll follow that system. Let's talk about money. The show me the money segment. So what is the typical investment and what does your franchise disclosure document or item 19 show people are capable of doing?
Absolutely. So the investment typically ranges from about 64,000 to 85,000. I'm conservative by nature, so most of the candidates that we invite in, we tend to say, okay, let's also think about, and by the way, the reason we do what I'm going to say, many of the candidates that we bring in, they are first-time business owners. They have no idea what they're getting themselves into. And so we want to help bridge the gap with that initial investment as well. So I'll typically tell candidates, look, it may be wise to bring in some capital that you can live on, right? That cash that is the hidden cash, not usually talked about in this franchise disclosure document. Let's bring some cash in to live on. So if you brought in around 100 grand even, you give yourself a nice runway to get that business going, get it off the ground, get it moving. So that's typically the investment side. Again, officially 64 to 85, unofficially around 100,000. That gives you the extra breathing room. Now, in terms of return, we have franchisees that do exceptionally well with this business, and it is truly mind blowing. When I first jumped into this brand, I had no clue what was possible. I was like, oh, I'm getting duty calls. At Authority Brands, I have 7 brands that I oversee, and I thought, oh, this one's going to be, a tough one. Could not be further from the truth. I was blown away when I reviewed the FDD. The top franchise at the time was doing over $3 million picking up poop. 3 million. I mean, come on.
I'll give it another plug. Yeah, another plug. See that poop? I'm telling you, we always
It's
say
unbelievable.
we turn brown to green. That's what we do. We turn brown to green,
Is what
right,
we do.
Josh? That's what we always say.
That is
So
exactly what we
We
say.
turn brown to green. You
green.
heard
I
it
swear,
here.
yeah. Sorry,
Lance,
Josh, I had to throw that in there.
we have every pun figured out. So if you want a list of them at the end, we'll
Oh
gladly
gosh.
provide that. But
I
Yes.
do. This is going to be fun on YouTube.
this is going to be good. So, if you talk about a more average franchise, of course, nobody likes to be average, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, let's have an average day today. Nobody wants to be average, but those folks are doing around 400, 450 in revenue. I like to look at, okay, what's reasonably possible if I put effort into this thing, if I execute well. And to me, in all my years of doing this, that's the top 25%, right? The top 25% is really what I would aspire to do if I'm getting into any business. I don't care if it's duty calls or something else. I want to be in that top 25% because I don't want to be average. That group is doing right around $1 million. So last year, 981,000 was their average gross revenue.
Wow. So that, people listening are like, wait a second. I invest up to $100, $100, 100,000, like Larry said. And I could do 981 if I'm in that top 25%, 981,000. All right, guys. So the sales are fantastic. Yes, we know that. Now let's talk about the process. What kind of process do you put people through for, franchising is a two-way street. You have to like them. They have to like you. Talk about that.
Absolutely. So we have a very deliberate process at Authority Brands, and we try to do this with every single brand to give our candidates a very thorough experience. We want them coming in with eyes wide open. I'm going to simplify it for the folks that are listening. I use what I call the 3Ds, okay? Discovery, diligence, and decision making. Discovery is really characterized by just that. We want to help our candidates understand everything there is to know about our brand. There should be no stone left unturned. We provide a ton of information, whether it's video content or written content, and also phone calls, right? Back and forth conversation to get to know the candidate. We want to know their story. We certainly want to take the time to share the person that they're engaging with, their story, right? We want to create that connection one-on-one, because this brand in particular is very personal. Okay. From there, we want to share the brand story. And again, that happens through that series of content and collateral that we can provide the candidate. The discovery phase is characterized by curiosity, right? Do I have interest in this thing? Well, clearly the person does if they're exploring it on the front end. But as they move through discovery, I really believe the characteristics or the questions going through a candidate's mind, they begin to change. Can I see myself doing this? Not do I want to, right? Not yet. Let's reserve that decision for later. But can I see myself doing it? And if they can, then it makes sense for them to invest more time into exploring the brand. So it's this continuation of the discovery process. In that phase, we typically move into diligence, right? The franchise disclosure document is our bridge between pure discovery. I want to learn everything, just be a consumer. And now suddenly we're going to start on our due diligence, right? We're going to learn about this business, but learn about it in the context of, will this make sense for my business goals? Okay. Again, certainly part of the thing that we're uncovering on the front end is those business objectives, those business goals, so on. And so everything we do from this point forward is trying to drive that alignment. Okay. Now, in diligence, diligence can look like a number of things. It can look like simply reviewing the franchise disclosure document, not what we'd recommend. We do recommend that candidates also take the time to speak to some of our existing franchisees. That's known as in the industry as validation, right? So it's a look into the business, very different than if you started a business on your own, right? It's uncommon that you would call 10 of your closest competitors and say, hey, tell me all about your business. But that's exactly what you get the opportunity to do with validation in franchising, right? So it's a major benefit to the candidate.
And you get to ask those franchisees what their margins are, how happy they are. You get to ask questions like, would you do this all over again, knowing what you know now? And when you hear the answer is yes, there's a good place for you possibly.
That's exactly right. So we want to create further opportunities to do that as well. So, getting a hold of busy franchisees can be challenging at times. We all know that. We've been doing this a while. However, there are other ways to validate the information that the salesperson on the front end is sharing. Those other ways, we have an ops team that is really wonderful on the calls with our candidates. And many of the folks on our ops team are actually franchisees as well. Right. So they're
Awesome.
invested in this business. They're doing it. They can
I
speak
love that.
with, absolutely. They have authority on the subject of picking up poop. They know everything there is to know about it. We also take the time to give our candidates one-on-one calls with Larry, right? So we want Larry to not only learn about the candidate, but also share that vision, right? This is what this brand is all about. And again, we do all that under that diligence guise, okay? Now, as we get closer to the finish line, things start to become clear. The candidate, again, they run these questions through their mind. Do I want to do this, right? Not do I have interest, not can I see myself doing it. Now it's do I want to, right? So as the adage goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. That's exactly right here. We can't force a candidate to buy this brand, but we want to help them get to that point in their decision making where they have enough ammunition to make a great decision for themselves in their future. And so the bridge between that discovery and diligence and now decision making is really our Meet Your Team Day, right? So we typically do these virtually. We have our entire team on the call, and we typically, DoodyCalls is one of those brands at Authority Brands where we are moving and shaking, right? We've got a lot of activity, so we typically have a full group, and it's a wonderful opportunity for the candidate to hear questions that maybe they didn't think of, right? And so it really solidifies those decisions that they're making at that point. Once we've wrapped that up, we are fast to move to decision, and decision looks like we get a franchise agreement in their hands, and of course we ask them to sign and pay, right? So it's pretty simple, but again, we walk everybody through that process to give them all a really great experience. Last thing I'll say on it, and I'll turn the mic over, our timeline. We don't want to rush people through a life-changing decision, but our model is pretty simple. They're going to gain all the knowledge that they need to know in 28 to 30 days, and they're going to be armed and ready to make a decision by then. It doesn't mean they have to. It just means that they'll have everything they need to do it in that timeline. And so that's our target, that's our aim. And we hope to move people through relatively efficiently because let's face it, the main characteristic of an entrepreneur is action, right? They
Yes.
take the next step. It's action.
Yeah. Love it. Larry, what would you like to add besides the Meet
Yeah.
the Larry Day is, the most important thing?
Yeah. A legacy in my own mind, I guess. Sure. It's my favorite day of the week is when I get to meet Larry, right? But no, I think everything that Josh said, we're very fortunate because as a team, it's a very collaborative group. But two things that strike me that I would share with potential candidates. In a spirit of transparency and really kind of laying the groundwork of the culture at Duty Calls and at Authority Brands, one of the key questions we often will ask folks is, hey, have you validated? Have you talked to some franchisees? And to Josh's point, we're very busy, as you can imagine, and our business owners are, answering all kinds of validation calls. So often we will say, what would you like to know about? Like, what's keeping you up at night? Like, what do you really want to know about? Then I may be able to share with you 2 or 3 specific franchisees that have walked that path before, and you can give them a call. Doesn't mean you can't call everybody in our directory, but if you want to know what happens when it snows, if you want to know where do you put all that poop, how much do you pay yourself? How long was it before you took a full-time gig at Duty Calls and quit your other full-time job? If you want to know that, I'll share with you Bob's number, Bill's number, Paul's number, so you know what I'm saying? And I always think that I think that's very important in the process when you're trying to make that final decision, to be able to connect you with that individual. And then the only other thing I would just add, and we mentioned it earlier about the definition of success, but as candidates are going through the process, we're really monitoring to make sure that we are going to be able to deliver and you are aligned with us in terms of that definition of success. We were talking about numbers earlier, and a couple of my franchisees have said to me, success for me is I want to be home on the weekends with my family. That's success.
Love it.
Right? And if that's success, great. Our team's going to jump in and we're going to make sure you get that, right? So we kind of monitor that on our end of things as Josh and the team are moving them through that process too. So yeah.
I love it. Let's take the next question, kind of roll some things together, but you come out as a franchisee and you go through training. Talk a little bit about that training process. I'm assuming there's some done in advance and then, then there's others face to face. So maybe virtual training as well as hands-on.
Yeah, so we move and shake, to Josh's point. Like we do not let too much grass grow under your feet. So once you sign, we're committed to get in touch with you in about 24 hours. So we're going to get right in touch with you. A business consultant, a coach is going to get in touch with you, and we're going to begin a countdown. And whether that's 30, 45 days, whatever that is, towards your opening, we start right out of the gate. Right after signature, and we're going to hold your hand all the way through everything, whether it's a business license, taxes, order a truck, whatever you need, answer all those questions. We are constantly in contact with you long before you ever get to what we call poop school. Wait for it. Poop school. For all of you that ever wanted to get that master's degree, this is your opportunity. Yes. So we put you through poop school. We kind of leave it up to candidates because back to that side hustle, comment we made earlier. In some cases, folks don't want to fly in. We're based here outside of Washington, D.C. And, maybe it's too much, right, to be coming across to D.C. So it's up to you, but it's a 5-day training. And it really is across the board. It's a lot in terms of day by day, walking through everything, software, introducing you to all of our business partners, including fellow franchisees. That's a full week of training. And whether you want it virtual or obviously in person. And then out of training, we begin what we call post Poop School. And this goes on for about 6 months. And it's a weekly, approximately an hour, give or take, depending on the franchisee, update, right? And what's going on, and building out your business plan, gearing you up for your growth, scalability, and so on. And then from there, after the graduation of your Poop School, we then layer in all kinds of ongoing education and development. And, people often say to me, well, my God, how much is there to talk about? I mean, it's poop. It's what are you guys talking about? But, we really try to, layer in tons of different webinars and roundtables. We have an active franchise advisory council that works across the departments, marketing. So monthly, we're doing ongoing education. How do you pitch this thing to a decision maker at the municipality in your local town? How do you negotiate prices? How do you hire someone? I mean,
so that's a poop pitching class.
Yeah,
because you're pitching the poop also after your
But yep. All right, you have another job now. Look at this, man.
No, I wanted to ask. So training, we talked about. Anybody listening to this, and anybody listening to any franchise presentation at one point or another thinks, I don't know if I need this franchise brand. I could do this myself. Now, you have already unloaded a ton of information talking about technology, talking about training, all of this proprietary information, which is why you're able to get up to almost $1 million average in that top 25% for revenue. Because I'll tell you, I talk to people all the time that ask this, well, why a franchise versus doing it yourself? I said, all that support, all that marketing, all that know-how. Otherwise, you could pick up poop yourself, but you'll be stuck at 150,000 in revenue probably for a really long time. What do you guys say to that?
Yeah. Well, I have to give a plug to Josh. Already mentioned it, but one of our business consultants is in that top 25, and she works full time for us here as a business coach. And one of the things that she often will say, and she still today runs her franchise, but she often says, and I love this, she always says there is a significant difference between buying yourself a job and buying yourself a business. And if you want to buy a business, we're here for you. You want to buy a job? That's your rake and a truck. And yeah, you just do your thing. That's your job. But if you want to scale, if you want to have shared services and authority brands and just intellectual power, that, my God, we'd be here all day talking about how wonderful, we are just so incredibly blessed to have the talent and the skill of finance and folks like franchise development. You want to expand, you want to technology. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. You're not going to get that buying yourself a job. And I think that's the big difference, right?
Absolutely. I love authority brands for sure. Josh, anything to add on that? Because I want to move to the next big subject, marketing.
Absolutely. So I'll keep it brief. The reality is this, the best franchisors, they take something that's not sophisticated and they add a level of sophistication to it so that you can scale, right? So when you take somebody off the streets who themselves has an education and a background and all the experience that they bring with them, and we plug them in to something that's very sophisticated, to your point, Lance, they typically will scale that business well beyond what they would have done on their own. Right? So if they would have invented everything, here's the irony. The irony is they would have probably spent as much money or more trying to figure out how to be us, right? And that sounds a little bit arrogant, but it's the reality. They have to invent a brand. They have to invent the slogans, the turn brown to green, right? I mean, all those things take time and money. And the reality is we haven't even scratched the surface. The technology is first class, and that in and of itself would take massive investment just to be on the same plane as us. And so just by investing, you step into all of those things. That's the sophistication that you get day one. And so when we couple that with what you bring to the table, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I love that. Talk about marketing. What do you do for grand opening? What do you do on a continuous basis? You mentioned the call center. How does that all work together?
Yeah, you want me to take that, Josh? Yeah.
Larry.
So no problem. So it starts prior to opening. You're assigned your own designated marketing manager. brand manager, works for Duty Calls, works with you, builds out a grand opening strategy. That is going to include a grand opening kit. So to Josh's point, you can't do this, on your own. You're going to get everything, all kinds of sophisticated poop stuff, including big bags of poop, by the way. But you're going to get, all kinds of swag and big tents and banners and anything you could possibly need for a local event. All that's going to be part of just a kit. But then you're also going to get that designated manager who's going to build out a marketing plan with you, looking at all the tactics, figuring out how we want to target. As you build the strategy out, I always say to candidates, it's very similar to a menu approach, right? And you can adjust this. This is the beauty of kind of the hybrid of being a franchisee, but then still being your own owner, making your own decisions. You'll have guardrails, you have a guidance, kind of counselor with your manager. But every single month, starting with grand opening, pre-opening, we're going to go through all the different tactics. You've got this whole menu of tactics. It's going to tell you the reach, the average leads, how much it costs. You can select those tactics, launch the tactics. We track it on our end and provide that back to franchisees. And then ongoing. That's how it works. So every single month, you can make adjustments to next month. Maybe you want to pull something back. Maybe you want to change something. You allocate the funds on a monthly basis, literally online, working with the marketing manager, and you're picking things off of a menu based on results, right? Seasonality results. I mean, obviously, you can imagine different, elements go into the decision making, but just all kinds of great things. On our end, as far as the heavy lifting for you.
Wonderful. Josh?
Well, the thing I would add to that is, this brand, like many brands in the service space, it does really well when the franchisee does get involved with their marketing tactics. And so, a lot of the tactics that we can wrap our minds around, we're going to send a direct mail piece, or we're going to be on social media, any number of those types of things. They're typically directed at B2C customers. And this business has a unique opportunity to target B2B customers as well. And so, speaking of the force multiplier, if the franchisee steps into the role of marketer for a short period of time, right? They basically go knock on doors, talk to the apartment complexes of the world or the HOAs, and put on a short presentation and talk to them about all the benefits we can drive. There are commercial contracts that they can get as well that are all recurring in nature. Very similar to a residential client. However, they're more lucrative. And so those are other things, other tactics that our franchisees will typically deploy. And that's in addition to the things that we're doing for them. That boots on the ground approach is just a way to get there faster, right? Get to that ultimate goal revenue wise as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up. So if I could just add one more thing on that B2B side that I do think is really important on the B2B side, because sometimes it's the mysterious side of our business. Like what do you do for a community or a hotel or a winery? Like how do you get in front of these folks? To Josh's point, we have incredible national partnerships that the brand has built out and worked very hard on that. So when you sign, one of the very first things that we do is we then connect you as a new franchisee to your local chapter of those decision makers. And we're going to work with you on building out your script. That's your elevator pitch, right? So when you are going to meet with different associations, like a governing body of all the property managers across the country, we are their preferred pet waste vendor. So their managers know, oh my goodness, we have a Duty Calls now. I need to meet this guy, and we help you get in front of those folks. And I think that's really, really important on the B2B side as well.
Who doesn't love having business handed to them when you're a franchisee? That's why you're in the network, right? You guys, let me tell you, you guys did an awesome job today. Final thoughts, final words of wisdom. Josh, you get to go first.
All right. So, I alluded to this a little earlier. The reality is starting a business is challenging, right? And we know that it comes with risk. It's like eating a 2-ton elephant, though, right? How do you do it? One bite at a time. One bite at a time. And so, the process that we walk candidates through is designed to hopefully help them reduce, not eliminate, but reduce the fear that's associated with doing something they've never done before. This is a life-changing event, right? It's something that not everybody wakes up and does every single day. I tell people they need to choose what others won't so that they can live like others can't. And that's just a reality of entrepreneurship. And so how do we get there? Again, it's one bite at a time. And the word that I like to use is action. Take that step. Take that step, right? If you have the itch, you got to scratch it. Otherwise, tomorrow you live with those regrets instead of living like others can't.
Very well said. Thank you, Josh. Larry, final word of the day here.
Yeah, well, that one's hard to top, but I totally echo everything that Josh just said. I would say that to Josh's point and to anyone listening, we recognize it's an extremely difficult decision and it's a high risk, period. And I think with us, what I would say, beside all the differentiators we kind of went through today, I'm also really proud to say, we're right now in our 20th year of franchising.
Wow.
In February, the brand will be 25 years old. There's not a whole lot of pooper scoopers out there that can speak to that level of legacy, and the bandwidth in which we have. And I think that's really, really big. And then I would just say the last thing is, while there's a lot of flexibility, and the model itself is simple, it's not easy. And to Josh's point, it's still a business. So, absolutely, we're going to be here. We're going to be anything you need. We've got you covered. But it's not a walk in the park either, right? I mean, it's still a business. And I always tell new franchisees that because often people say, I thought this is going to be really easy. It's just a simple, you just pick up poop. And I'm like, it's still a business. It's still a business. So, but no, other than that, I say, come join the fun. There's a lot of green out there. So we gotta, go get it. I'm just saying.
I love it.
Yep,
And
yep.
Right.
we got to turn as much brown
To green.
Into green.
That's
right.
right.
Wait, we have to do that again. Chase might have to edit that. Actually, I'm going to go with the different one. Chase, you're going to have to edit that piece, okay? We can do the when poop happens. All right. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to say that. When poop happens,
Duty
Duty
calls.
calls. There we go. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. You guys were fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
We shall see you soon.
If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.